This episode is sponsored by Crunchyroll and the ZenkaiCon Anime Convention. Come join ZenkaiCon on March 18th to 20th, just outside of Philadelphia.
Hi, I'm Sheba, and welcome to AnimeCons TV. On this episode, Patrick and Sketch look back on the largest anime conventions of 2010. Elizabeth and I help keep you from getting scammed when buying a costume online. Doug sits down with voice actress Amy Howard Wilson, and we dive into our virtual mailbag to see what viewers are saying.
Well, like every year, we come to here and we do the Big 10 of conventions in terms of attendees, or attendance, and whatever a formulation of that is. And always every year, we have Patrick here, our web host guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been putting together the list of the 10 largest anime conventions since 2003 or so. And every year presents a new challenge, and this year's no different. In fact, this year was probably the hardest year I've had to come up with this list. Meaning
you probably had to scrape and scrounge a lot more than usual.
Yep. And in some places, oh well. So
apparently we have some oh wells this year as compared to last year. Well, start from 9?
Well, we'll start at the top. Everybody knows what the largest convention is, so there's really no suspense that it's
Anime Expo.
Now, the issue with them this year was they only released turnstile numbers of 105,000.
Okay, what's turnstile mean?
Turnstile is you're counting every time somebody comes in for the day. It's like you have a turnstile at the door. So if somebody comes in on Friday and they come back Saturday, that's 2. Anime Expo is a 4-day convention, so if they're
been there,
4 days, they're counted 4 times. So that means if you divide 105,000 by 4, they had at least 26,250 people. Probably more.
Probably more, but that's still a very high number.
They didn't release the actual warm body count or the number of paid attendees like the other conventions do, but we can look at their numbers last year because they also released Turnstile last year along with the warm body count. Last year they had 109,000 turnstile. More. And 44,000 warm bodies. So using this as a basis, we can kind of assume that their warm body count went down a little bit. We have no numbers to back that up, but it's a fairly safe assumption.
But compared to who is the number 2, which is Otakon down in Baltimore, which was just over 29,000.
Yeah. And that's up from their total last year, which was 26,350. Now that's paid attendees. Some of these conventions will report warm bodies. That includes staff, press, guests, anybody with a convention badge. Other conventions only count paid attendees, and that's anybody who paid to get in the door. So there's a bit of a discrepancy between the reporting of one or the other, but usually they're in the ballpark.
Yeah.
So.
Well, then with number 3, we have Anime Central.
Yep.
And they were just under 20,000, 19,511. But last year, 17, so there was an increase.
Yeah, all of these conventions we're talking about today, they all have increases. And so that's good. And some of them had increases of 3,000, others had increase of, just 1,000, but everybody went up. And in the number 4 spot, SakuraCon in Washington and ACon are in a virtual tie.
Okay. Again, from all this.
Yeah. They both reported warm bodies, and SakuraCon had 18,002. ACon had 18,000, estimated. So, for all intents and purposes, it's a tie. They're even. Last year, SoccerCon was at 16,005, and ACon was at 16,000, give or take.
So in general, we'll list the ACon just below.
Yeah. And we have Anime Boston, which had 17,236 warm bodies.
Which generally for con has the most steady growth for its short years compared to the other ones.
It definitely exploded when it first came on the scene. It was in the 10 largest in the first year.
Yes.
Which is unheard of.
Yeah.
And it's been on the list ever since. And it's been steadily in, the 6 or 7 spot.
Yeah. And as we say, if you want to start a convention, don't. But location, location, location.
Yeah. It was an area that didn't have a convention, and it's clearly proven.
So following up after that,
we go up to Canada, Anime North. They had a big increase. They went up to 18,500 from 14,800.
That's a big increase.
Yeah. And that's estimated, though, so it's not in 18,500 even.
AWA, or Anime Weekend Atlanta, and they had about 12,718 paid attendees, which is about 1,000 more than last year.
Yep. And new to the list is OhioCon. In 9th, they had 10,120 warm bodies, up from 7,357 last year. So that's pretty good.
Well, that's a good job.
And
they're on the board.
Yeah. And in number 10, we don't know. Fanime was on Memorial Day weekend. They were on the list last year. And in November they said, and I quote, "The current plan is for the number of paid attendees to be released via press release that will also be published on our website." And it's been over a month and still haven't seen a press release, so we don't know how many people Fanime had. They're probably in the middle somewhere. Also, second year in a row, we haven't gotten numbers from Anime Next.
What's wrong with you, Anime Next?
And
we know you'd be on this list.
Perhaps the most notable absence from last year's list is New York Anime Festival.
Oh, because it doesn't exist.
No, because we only
it's folded in.
We only list conventions that focus mainly on anime, and
if you notice, we don't list Dragon Con.
Yeah,
because
or Comic Con.
Comic Con, yeah.
But they've rolled into New York Comic Con now, so so they don't count for this list. So anyway, that's.
But yeah, that is the big 10 of the last year in terms of attendees.
Yeah, and always we have the attendance numbers on AnimeCons.com. This episode is sponsored by the ZenkaiCon Anime Convention. Come join ZenkaiCon March 18th through 20th at the Valley Forge Convention Center and Scantacon Conference Center just outside Philadelphia. Featuring panels, screenings, concerts, cosplay, gaming, and more, there's never a dull moment at ZenkaiCon. The Japanese goth duo Rose Noir will be making their US debut with Vic Mignogna and Todd Havercorn as some of many special guests. Learn, have fun, and make new friends at Greater Philadelphia's Anime Convention. Register today at zenkaicon.com.
So with the 2011 con season up, you're probably planning all your costumes for this year. And if you don't like to make your costumes, you can get them online. And there's a lot of different places you can get them online. You can get them commissioned, or you can buy them on eBay. What other kind of
on cosplay.com, they have a marketplace. You can buy people's used costumes that a lot of times this time of year, not only are people looking for costumes, but people are looking to get rid of maybe ones that they don't plan on wearing anymore. However, we wanted to make people aware of some of the things that can go on that might lead you to make a fraudulent purchase, where a lot of people end up with something that they didn't think they were buying, or they lose out on a lot of money. So we just wanted to kind of give you some pointers on, if you do choose to buy your costume, how to make sure that you're happy with your purchase. One of the biggest things that we can tell you is to beware of fake photos. I would advise never buying anything with a stock photo. That means, say you even buy one of the Halloween costumes online, say from like Leg Avenue or whatever. A lot of times they just have a stock photo and you don't actually see what the costume really looks like. It's just like buying anything else on eBay or any other website. If you don't see the actual item and you're just seeing a picture they took, or a screen cap of the anime character, so you'll see a picture of Sailor Moon and not the costume, that is not a good way to judge your purchase.
Because a lot of time, well, not a lot of times, but sometimes what some sellers will do is they'll take pictures of costumes people already made.
Yes.
Who have nothing to do with this company, if you can even call it that. And they say, oh, we'll make you a costume just like this that this person made, and they have no idea that this company is using their picture, and you probably won't get something like what's in the picture.
Yeah, definitely be aware of photos of cosplayers wearing a costume if it's not the cosplayer themselves selling it. That happens a lot, especially with Chinese companies, but they're not the only offenders. It's happened to me, it's happened to other people I know where our costume pictures have been taken to use to advertise something else, and their costume definitely isn't going to look like what you made because we have nothing to do with it. It doesn't mean their costume's necessarily bad, but you're not going to get what's in the photo. And it's also rude that they took people's pictures.
So one good way to tell if this person is going to give you a good costume is feedback. Now, through eBay, of course, they have their whole feedback system that's been there forever, and that's a really good way to check. You can also go to cosplay.com where they'll have threads where people have reviewed commissioners and other companies they've gone to in the past to get an idea of if this person is worth the money you're going to be giving them for the product you end up in the end.
Also, try to, if the costume already exists or if they've made similar costumes already, get a photo of the actual costume. Make sure it's that one, get all the angles on it so that you know it belongs to them and it's not something they swiped somewhere else. If it's a commissioner and they haven't made the costume before, look at pictures of their other work. And I would say if you are getting a costume commissioned, look at work of things they've made for other people, not what they've made for themselves, because that'll be a totally different quality because they don't care what they spend on their own costume. They're going to put a lot of time and effort into it because they're making it for them. You want to see how much time and effort they put into somebody else.
Yeah, and definitely try and check out a couple different places. If there's a few commissioners you like, a couple places on eBay you like, see how much it costs. And if one is ridiculously low, yeah, that's pretty cool, but you want to be careful that they make sure they use good fabrics and don't take shortcuts, because if sometimes you end up with what you pay for.
Yep. And a lot of commissions, sometimes they're overpriced. So you kind of want to have another idea of what people in general are charging for the type of costume you're getting. You don't want to end up paying like $1,000 for a fuku, or something ridiculous. So you kind of look into what the materials would cost if you were going to make it yourself, but you're just uncomfortable doing that, and how much is what they're charging for their time. And
make sure, usually do some kind of contract or purchase on eBay. Make sure you know exactly what you're going to be paying for. Make sure there are no hidden fees that are going to be attached, and be careful with shipping. Even if it's a big costume, if it's being shipped, it costs a lot of money, especially if it's coming from overseas.
Yeah, a lot of the costume sellers on, say, like China or Taiwan, the costume itself is pretty reasonably priced, but then you look at the shipping and it's about equal to the amount of the costume, which isn't necessarily make it bad, but you've got to be willing to pay that. In general, I mean, there's nothing wrong with buying costumes online. You just want to watch your back. If you do make any payment methods, usually use something like PayPal, something you can contest if something go wrong. Because I think everyone who's done anything cosplay related has been screwed over at least once on the internet. And we've had successful purchases, but you just want to be careful. If possible, I do recommend buying something someone has already made secondhand, because you know exactly what it looks like. It's usually cheaper because they want to get rid of it. And you usually have a better idea of what you're going to actually end up with.
Yep. So if you choose to buy your costume, please take these tips in mind so you don't get screwed over and you have more money to spend at the convention.
And good luck.
This episode's sponsor is Crunchyroll. Now, Crunchyroll is a great website which offers over 250 anime and drama titles and all their episodes. And they're all properly legally licensed and support the creators. All shows are English subtitled and dubbed. Same access to many of the titles that actually are airing right now in Japan. They have great definition for your TV. There's no advertisements other than what they put around the page. And your access is immediate once you sign up. And right now you can have a 2-week free trial before committing to anything, which is great if you want to try. But also they do show some things for free anyway. If you're watching your pennies and you just want to try it out. What's also great is that you can stream it from your iPhone, iPod Touch, or iPad, or if you want, go out and buy a Boxy box and hook it up to your TV directly. And for your 2-week free trial, please go to crunchyroll.animecons.tv.
I recently sat down with Amy Howard Wilson. She's best known as playing Nova Forrester on Starblazers, and is quite a veteran in anime convention history, and been in the industry a very long time. It was great to talk to her and find out some of her perspectives on conventions and what it means to be growing up as an anime fan. So I'm here with Amy Howard Wilson, who is a voice actor, and we're just going to sit here and ask you a couple questions about your convention experiences and some of the things you've done. Okay. So I guess my first question would be, what was the first convention you ever attended?
Anime Weekend Atlanta.
Anime Weekend Atlanta.
Back in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
Starblazers, for those who may not be aware, we did it 30 years ago. This is our 30th anniversary year, and we are very proud of that. And for the longest time, nobody knew who we were.
Mm-hmm.
Our names were not in the credits. It was a very small project. It was actually the only show of its kind being done in the country at that time. It wasn't called anime, or there were no Netflix or Blockbuster Video, or VCRs were about $1,000 a piece. It was a whole different world back then. And as I said, our names were not in the credits, so nobody knew who we were. And it wasn't until many, 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 many years later that my brother-in-law at the time and my two lovely nieces were kind of sitting around watching TV one day and talking, and my brother-in-law said, you know what? And my nieces were at the time fans of Ray Earth and Sailor Moon and the more current shows of the time. And they got kind of talking, yeah, Aunt Amy did this show. Let's see what we can find about it on the internet. Well, the next thing I know, I'm getting a phone call. You are not going to believe what I just found on the internet. And at the time I was using kind of an older machine. I had a 2400 baud modem. Okay, it was not the slickest thing to get online with. So and then it crashed. I started looking at these websites and I thought, oh my God. And then my computer crashed, and I was kind of a fish out of water. But finally, about 6 months later, I was able to afford a new machine. And, I started looking at these websites, and I thought, well, let me send out an email or two. So I found the Wave Motion webpage, which, run by a real nice fellow named Bud Cox. And, I sent an email to him also, just kind of introducing myself. And the show is very special to me, and I thought it was gone forever. And now I'm finding the websites and stuff, and told him who I was and what I did. And he sent my email to a couple of other people, and they sent it to a couple of other people, and all of a sudden I was getting replies back. And boy, don't you know, they were asking some tough questions because they were not willing to accept any substitutes. And it has just grown steadily over the years. These people who are now good friends of mine, at the time they were on a mailing list, and everybody got copies of my email, and oh my God! And it just sort of appeared out of nowhere, and they wanted to make sure I was the real deal, and we had some real good phone conversations and things like that, and they suggested that I contact a real good friend named Dave Merrill, excuse me, Dave Merrill, who at the time was the convention chair for Anime Weekend Atlanta, and who also was good friends of the dear fellow who is now my husband, and was best man at our wedding, and I can tell you stories. But anyway, they suggested that they told me all about conventions and stuff, and I'm thinking, oh my God, that was just freaky, just freaky.
And did it exceed completely, change your expectations when you got there, or what was it like?
I'll tell you the truth, I don't remember a whole lot of that first con. Because I was walking around just kind of, and I'm seeing people in costumes and, panels and people wanting my autograph and stuff after about 16 years of nothing. The only clue, I had a slight clue that Starblazers was not entirely dead. I got a catalog. This was in early 90s, as I recall. There was a catalog of VHS tapes. You look through it, you find, you see your favorite show, and you order the videotapes. And I'm flipping through, and I thought, it can't be the one we did. So I could, at the time, I was, you know, I had a house to fix up, and I had all sort of homeowner expenses, and I couldn't really afford to buy a whole lot of videotapes, so I bought 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, in fact, the dub that we did.
Wow. Blast from
So
the past
it's
sort of
just,
thing.
yeah, and I mean, to this day, my husband and I, his name is Dave, we are about to celebrate our 10th wedding anniversary. We met, I was, the first AWA that I did was in '97, and then I met him the following year. He was in charge of the green room at the AtlantaCon. And we met that year, and then we were married 2 years later, and Starblazers literally brought us together. He watched it when he was 10. So, you know, and at every con we go to, we meet more and more people who tell us the most wonderful stories. You know, I'd pile on the couch with the kids, and, you know, one fellow who has since become a good friend of ours, you know, he would make up different lyrics to the theme song. You know, he'd be there, the kids are all waiting to see the show and stuff, and he'd sing things like, you know, heading off to Iskandar, driving in our brand new car. And then he'd turn up, Dad, that's not how it goes. You know? And he'd get a lecture from his kids. You know, and I just got every you know, to this day, you know, we hear about kids who used to run home from school. So they'd be sure to catch the first few notes of the theme song. You know, I'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'd be late to school because I had to see the end of the episode and all that. So it's a special show to people, and I'm meeting the grandchildren these days of the people who used to watch it as, you know, high school students or college students, and that's just, you know, I don't know, I've never had an experience like this in my life, and I know I never will again. So it is so precious to me.
Yeah.
It really is.
This month we have a question from Cameron. He writes, "Hi, my name is Cameron, not really, but is my preferred online. I want to thank you and your crew for all of the entertaining news you give on conventions around the US. I eagerly wait for and watch your podcast monthly because your crew gives me the insight onto all the popular and fun conventions. Granted, because of my income, I cannot afford to go out of the state of Ohio, but it does not stop me from hearing all the fun things that the bigger cons have to offer, and I am glad that you give every detail about them and sometimes videos to boot. I'm hoping that one day I will see one of the awesome cons that you've mentioned throughout the months and hopefully bump into your crew there, but until more money rolls in, that will have to wait. Thank you for all the entertaining anime convention news and laughs along the way, and keep it rolling. Thanks, Cameron." Visit us at AnimeCons TV and you'll find links to our forums, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes subscription feeds, and the 23 episodes that came before this one. We want you all to tell us what you think about the show, ask us a question, or tell us a funny joke. Call and leave us a voicemail at 762-ADEQUATE. That's 762-233-7828. Keep it under 30 seconds and we might use it on the next episode.
Come join ZenkaiCon on March 8th.
Patrick and Sketch look back on the largest anime conventions of 2010. Elizabeth, I didn't say 2010 and I know it because I don't like that, so shut up.
At Valley Forge Convention Center in featuring, why did I say keeping? There's never a dull moment at ZenkaiCon. The Japanese
And you also can find it on the Boxy app, sorry.
Boxy Box.
Boxy Box?
Oh, okay. Serious face.
I'm Kamen, not really, but it's my preferred name.
Come on.
Fair enough.